Hello and welcome to Alternative Investor. Today we're going to be looking at a quick overview of copper. So if you're interested in investing in copper, this is going to be a quick video to give you an idea. If you want to learn more, I'm going to be putting up more videos on copper and going into a lot more detail about the mining process, the investing process, or ways to invest in greater detail. So subscribe if you would like to learn more. So to get started, what is copper? So copper basically is obviously a metal. Why it's an important metal is it's quite a malleable, ductile metal, which has excellent conductivity of heat and electricity. So that's why we see it in wires and we see it in piping because of the excellent conductivity and the ability to bend it. So it's been used for something like 10,000 years from things like jewelry and plumbing, and now it's being used sort of in solar panels and wind turbines and things like that. So it's been used a lot historically. We're still finding new uses. This graph here shows that it's used a lot in building construction and a lot in electronics and transport. So that's sort of our main uses of copper. We've obviously always come up with new ones. The renewable energy sector is really relying on copper, and that's really causing copper to grow. So while I continue on, here's a list of a bunch of different things that copper is used for. So you can have a look at that when you're ready. So copper, where it's produced is it's produced all over the world. However, there's sort of a few countries that it's the most important in, and that's Chile, Australia, Peru, and Russia. So all these are the countries that produce copper, mine copper. So it's good when you're looking geopolitically to just pay a little bit of attention to these companies, what's happening. Now, if we look at the breakdown, we can see that Chile is the most important one, and that's pretty much always been the case for copper. So we'll get to geopolitical concerns later, but Chile is the largest producer and very important when it comes to the copper market. We can see from the breakdown of deposits in tons that yes, Chile is quite a bit larger than the next producer, Australia. On the demand side, we see that China, this is back for 2019, but is a huge consumer of copper. Obviously, they are a big manufacturer and also a large, growing, emerging economy. So they tick all the boxes and, of course, importing a lot of copper. In this graph is the historical copper price, and we'll be using this graph a little bit throughout this video and referring back to it. So we'll just go into a little bit about the pros and cons of copper. So I might take this opportunity just to discuss copper's sort of famous for being a bit of a leading indicator, as we see here. As we see here in the graph. On these, when we have these recessions like the 2008 GFC and the COVID crisis, we see copper collapse, and copper tends to collapse very early on in the process because obviously you're producing your microchips, you get no sales are coming in, so you stop ordering more copper. So we see that copper slows, the price collapses quite quickly. So if the price of copper is starting to collapse, that could be a leading indicator that the whole world economy is going to be in trouble. And vice versa, if copper starts to move, that's a positive sign that the world economy could increase. So some of the pros of copper is that it is a hedge against inflation, as we see here. When inflation's increasing, as it did after COVID, the copper price increases with it. So if you were to have all your 100% portfolio of copper, inflation shouldn't be a major concern to your savings or your portfolio. So it is a good hedge against inflation. Depending on how you invest in copper, it can be quite liquid. Commodities in general are quite liquid. Even whether you go through stocks, unless you're doing a private equity funding deal of a specific copper mine, it should be pretty easy to get in and out of the market. With copper bullion, it's might be a little bit more difficult than gold and silver if you're used to that. So a lot of people like that it can be a tangible asset if you buy the bullion. Another thing is that there is, as I mentioned, a growing demand due to renewable energy and infrastructure projects that are happening across the world. It has a limited supply. Like any commodity, there's only so much to go around. This kind of, I suppose, I might start. It's industrial metal, so it's got a lot of uses. It's not got the most uses of any metal, or the least. It's got a lot of uses, and I assume we'll be finding more and more uses. So I don't think copper's going anywhere, but it's not just used for investment purposes. Is mainly a industrial metal. It does offer diversification. However, as we see in this graph, the diversification is very correlated with the economy. So, okay, if you're investing in something that's not, if your main portfolio is full of, index funds of the S&P 500, well, copper's not going to really diversify your portfolio that much. If your portfolio is invested in something that's uncorrelated to the economy, or say bonds, well, maybe copper could add some diversification to portfolios. So, as with everything, it's down to a specific person, a specific portfolio. However, so just watching, trying to work out your diversification strategy, it might just end up being correlated. So that could be an issue or a positive for you of investing in copper. And it could be a way of investing in the world economy. Instead of going, okay, how do I invest in the world economy? I could buy some, stocks from Australia, some from China, some from America, some from the UK, whatever it may be. Well, I could just buy copper instead. So the cons of copper, again, this, it all depends on. I've sort of gone over the cons, I guess, with the correlation. It can be a con, it can be a positive. And again, maybe I'll call them opportunities, but the geopolitical factors are major. So Chile has problems, the copper price is going to suffer, and then that feeds into your investment strategy of how to invest in copper. Because if you're investing in copper bullion, you're basically going long. You could sell it if, say, Chile's having if things are going well, and buy back in when things are going poorly. That's a possibility. But if you're using futures, you're more flexible in being able to invest in both markets. So a revolution in Chile might be a great opportunity for you to invest in copper. But if you're in copper long and have no cash in your portfolio, of course, it could be a negative. So that's another thing affecting copper. If you're investing in bullion, you can have purity or authenticity issues, so that's another issue. It can be a little bit volatile. We see here it's certainly volatile to some degree, but I don't think it's as bad as other investments. It's going pretty steadily up. I do have some figures from pre-1960 down to the 1800s, but I won't get to them in this video. And as I said, so now I might just go on to how to invest in copper. Start with bullion. As I said, you can buy copper bullion. You buy the bullion dealers. Some of the problem with this is just they're quite large. You've got to store them. They can get stolen. You can have the purity, authenticity issue. Those just typical bullion issues. At the same time, you get to hold something. You actually own it. So that's a benefit. And I'll do a video on bullion potentially in the future. Alternative options are ETFs. So ETFs are exchange rate funds, obviously, and you can buy ETFs that try and match the copper market as best they can. So you don't have the problems of bullion, but you don't actually own it as well. But if the copper market collapses, your ETF should do poorly. If it goes up, it should do well. Futures, again, you can use futures and bet on either the price going up or down, or staying the same using options. So that's another option to invest in copper. It requires a little bit more skill. I think you'd have to be paying a fair bit more attention to the copper market if you're going to be doing futures. So you can also invest in the miners. I'll do a video on investing in small cap miners in the future. Technically, it's not an alternative investment because it is stocks, but I consider small caps to be an alternative investment as well. So the problem with them often is that copper might not be the only thing they do. Sometimes you have miners that might be 30% of what they do is copper, or 60%, and they do tin is the rest of it, and that market goes poorly, or just the company's not very well run, or the mine's not well run, and you might miss out on that price growth of copper because the mine's not producing enough. Scrap, I got a lot of tradie mates who collect the old copper pipes from buildings, wiring, etc., and sell it on. And finally, you've got private equity. So you buy into a private equity fund that's going to, complete a mining project of copper. So this is kind of a bit of what influences copper prices. It's kind of covered a little bit with the pros and cons, which I think I'll change in future to opportunities. But basically, what influences the copper prices? The emerging markets are big. They need a lot of infrastructure and new technology that a lot of the developed countries already have. So if emerging markets are doing well like they were in that 2008 period, it really could help the copper prices to accelerate as they did. That's when the emerging markets were all over the news. BRICS, whatever was invented. That period there, you obviously see copper going from 75 cents to $4. So that would have been a good time to invest in copper. So renewable technology, that's going to affect the price of copper positively. Infrastructure as well, as I said, those two things, if they're with big governments, they're going to want more infrastructure, they're going to want more investment in renewable technology. That should push the copper prices higher. Whether those things happen, I don't know. It's up to you to do your own research. Supply chain disruptions, now that's on the supply side. Obviously, if Chile has some problem getting their copper to China, that could be a problem that reduces the supply of copper, therefore increasing the price. That could be port strikes at the ports in Chile, for example. Geopolitical tensions, again, if Chile has problems, has a revolution, some problem there, that can affect the price of copper. That it could be a good buying point. That's all today for copper. So if you want to learn more about copper investing and specifically the different ways to invest in copper, I'll be making videos on them. So subscribe and I'll let you know when they come out. Thank you.